Hello my royal lovelies and welcome back to the channel. It has been a moment, but I am feeling inspired today. So you're joining me from, as always, my home. Welcome to the royal bedchamber, no less. And I am wearing the Greville tiara today. Greville or honeycomb, whichever you prefer. So I wanted to come on today because a few things have been happening that I wanted to talk about. Most notably, we have the 7th birthday of Prince Louis of Wales. Big, massive happy birthday from me and all of the Royal Reviewer viewers to Prince Louis. Now, they have spent his birthday privately, very, very quiet, very, very low key. Of course, it's sort of fallen very, very close to Easter, and they have been on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, of course, Anmer Hall, their home, which does form part of the Sandringham estate, although it is a little bit further away from the main Sandringham house. So if you're not, entirely sure about the geography, we've got Sandringham sort of over here, and then Anmer is sort of over here, maybe 2 or 3 miles away. I think, roughly. Anyway, it forms part of the estate, and of course it was given by Her late Majesty to William and Catherine on their wedding, on the occasion of their wedding. And the reason why this house was given an actual gift, it doesn't form part of Crown property, although it is royal property, but it's private royal property, is because eventually it will be reunited and merged back into Sandringham, I guess, once William becomes king. So that was the kind of logic and thinking behind that. But they spent Easter quietly. Now, one of the things that I also wanted to talk about, we've had the loss of the Pope. So whether you are Catholic or whatever you might be, or might not be, you might be completely agnostic. Unless you've been living under a rock or you've been going up to space like Katy Perry, then yes, then you will know that the Pope has sadly passed away. So my condolences go out to everyone who knew him and loved him, and of course all Catholics who will be immensely sad at this moment in time. It has been confirmed that the Prince of Wales, Prince William, will be going to the funeral. And I think that's good. That's a good thing. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's a wise move, I think, because the one thing that William, I think, needs to start doing more of is doing these important events, occasions, whatever you want to call it, momentous events in history, just like his father, Prince Charles, did when he was the king did when he was Prince of Wales, when he was Prince Charles. And I think sort of stepping up is one of the ways of doing that, sort of going into that role. Of course, the King and the Queen only recently met with Pope Francis. So I don't really think it's appropriate for them to go straight back over for the funeral, especially when, the King is still undergoing treatment. And yeah, I think it's much easier, better, and it's helping Prince William prepare for his future role as king. So I think it'll be really good to see him there representing the royal family and, of course, the nation. Of course, we do not know who is going to be the next pope, but that will be something to look to the future for. And I think it's important to note as well that when the king met the Pope, it's 2 heads of churches meeting as equals, because obviously Henry VIII split from the Church of Rome, broke with the Church of Rome and formed the Church of England back during his reign. Another thing that I really wanted to talk about, staying on the religious theme, is church. And more importantly, Prince William's involvement with the church. He's going to be head of it one day. Maybe sooner rather than later. Who knows? But I do think that one of the things that we haven't really seen the younger generation do, that we saw the old generation do, or older generation do, is this kind of outward devotion or sort of public devotion to church. Now, I don't really, as Queen Elizabeth I once notably said, she desires not to make windows into men's souls. And neither do I. In other words, I don't care whether someone is religious or not. I don't care whether someone has those beliefs inside their head. I'm not bothered. But if you are going to be head of the Church of England, then I think you do need to have a bit more of an outward display. So I'm going to urge caution. I am going to put out to William that I think he needs to step up with regards to the religious element of what is going to be his future role. I think he should be very publicly, visibly seen going to church every Sunday and taking family. All of the Wales children are now old enough. Prince Louis's birthday, 7. I remember when I was 7, I could sit still. There is no excuse. All of the children are of an age where they can sit on a pew in church and they can listen to a service. Right? There's no excuses. And we saw the Wales family going to church on Easter because it is important, but it was very low key. They sort of just drove in and sort of drove off again, didn't do any kind of walkabout or anything. And I think it's really important that there is one possible reason for that. Maybe they didn't want to be seen to be upstaging the King and Queen for sort of their Easter celebrations. I think they did want to keep it low key because they weren't celebrating Easter or marking Easter with the main royal family. So there is that to consider. But I do think that they need to be just take Easter out of the equation, or any other sort of key religious holidays or events. I think they need to be seen doing it more often, because that's going to be associated. I mean, I don't care. He can go into church and he can sit there and think about what he's going to have for his tea, what he's going to do tomorrow, whatever he wants, football, whatever he wants to think about. But just go and be seen to be going, because I think it's very important that we don't erode away some of the roles that the royal family and the monarch, the sovereign, has. So yeah, I would urge caution for William and the Wales family to go to church. Whether you're religious or not, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me, my loves, but just go and be seen to be going. All the children are old enough now. Because I think it's just really important to kind of keep that authenticism going. We know that Queen Elizabeth II had real devotion. And King Charles as well has always been, quite a faithful and outwardly faithful religious person. Although he has been a bit loosey-goosey with, not necessarily, favouring one religion over another. But I think William needs to step up. Also, this is not a William criticising video. I'm not standing here. This is friendly advice. This is friendly, constructive, helpful advice. When he became Prince of Wales, he and Catherine did say they were going to make more of an effort to kind of slowly get to know Wales. The country, not the animal. Not the whales in the sea. Wales as the nation. And I know they've had some difficulties in the way. Of course, Catherine's cancer diagnosis and then treatment, which has kind of, put things on hold a little bit. So I do understand that. That has not escaped my attention. But now that we are in a remission period, I do think that they should be making steps to ingratiate themselves a little bit more with the nation of which they derive their new titles from, the Prince and Princess of Wales. So I did think of one way of sort of doing that. I mean, obviously, more engagements in Wales doesn't have to be, high profile ones, but just going out there, meeting more in the community, maybe at least once a year doing a tour of Wales. It's not a huge country, you can probably do a top to bottom tour, taking in many, many, many different engagements in about 3 days, let's put it that way. But also, I thought, well, what about the summer holidays? Typically in the UK, school children have about 6 weeks, sometimes pushing 7, depending on how it all falls off. And I kind of thought about William's royal year, how maybe that could pan out. So I kind of think that once the children finish school, they could have a couple of days back in Windsor just to sort of, you know, get over school and get into holiday mode, then I think they could go and spend maybe a week in Wales. Now, of course, King Charles, when he was Prince of Wales, under the Duchy of Cornwall, there is I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, but there is a Welsh residence owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. It's a white, sort of Welsh typical building, and King Charles, as Prince of Wales, and the Duchess of Cornwall used to, obviously she's now queen queen consort, but back when they were Prince of Wales and Duchess of Cornwall, they used to spend at least a week in this Welsh residence. Now, I think that William and Catherine could spend it there a week, use it as a base, go and explore Wales, do different engagements, make it all fun for the kids, maybe even make lots of the engagements quite child-based, but get out there, see the country. You know, but it's not also about William and Catherine learning more about Wales, it's about getting the children to learn more about Wales. And also, I think the children perhaps should be starting to maybe at least learn a little bit of the language as well. I would like to know what William has been doing about learning some of the language. Of course, Prince Charles, this is all these titles, everyone changing titles, how dare they? When he was Prince of Wales, he spent 3 months, I think, learning Welsh. So, you know, William could sort of take note of that as well, perhaps. So I think they could spend about a week there in Wales, use it as a base, go off, and then they could go to Balmoral, have a couple of weeks, and then they could go on their typical abroad holiday, family holiday. They normally go Caribbean or somewhere of that nature. So I think there are a few different tweaks that William and Catherine could do to help ingratiate themselves into religious life and into Wales, into Welsh culture, and learning more about that. So I kind of want to see them sort of step up in that regard. I think there's a lot of concentration now on these kind of big set piece events, the Earthshot Prize, blah, 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 you know, big projects. I think there's a place for big projects, but I also think there's a place for the small community engagements. And I think a lot of people get a lot from these smaller engagements. I'm a bit old school that way. Things are definitely leaning more towards the big set piece events, lots of work behind the scenes, and then you've sort of got, you know, these big sort of explosion of activity that's very concentrated, sort of more intense involvement than being rather sort of spread out, which works in some instances and cases. I do like, you know, I love to see Catherine's work with the early years. That's a big ongoing piece of work. Obviously the Earthshot Prize with William and lots of other different things that they are involved with as well. But I would, and also I would like to see more being done with the Commonwealth as well. Of course, you know, one day it's expected, although not automatic, that William will become head of the Commonwealth as well. So more with the Commonwealth, I think, as well. You know, let's not shy away from it. What about that this leads me on to the extraordinary scenario where the United States potentially could become part of the Commonwealth. I read about this sort of plan. I think it's a government plan, but apparently they are going to use the King to kind of ask Donald Trump, President Trump, whether or not they want to, the USA would like to become part of the it is a full member of the Commonwealth, but more an associate member of the Commonwealth, if you like. And apparently that was already kind of put out to President Trump, who kind of said, well, yeah, maybe, yeah, why not? So we are in an extraordinary climate where potentially the USA could become part of the Commonwealth, but then the USA is also wanting Canada to become the 51st state, but but Canada has the head of the country, the King. How is all this going to work out? It's a little bit haphazard and a bit wishy-washy for my liking. I can't wait to see how all of this is going to pan out. And then I saw a recent poll where I don't know how many Canadians, I don't know what the demographic was, but Canadians were asked whether or not they'd prefer to be like completely ruled by by Britain, or whether they'd like to join, no, whether they'd like to sort of join the UK, or whether they'd like to join the US as the 51st state. And overwhelmingly, the answer came back the UK. Now, I don't think the UK has any desire to rule, like, you know, like actually rule over any country. It's different when different countries are completely independent and, for example, share the same head of state sovereign. So, for example, Australia, Canada, all those other countries, they're not ruled by the sovereign in terms of government. That's all elected. But I don't think the UK has any desire to you know, tell another country what to do, control another country. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes. Anything could happen in this climate, couldn't it? But the point is, it all boils down to, we need to look more to the future, and I think William and Catherine need to be ready for it. And I think there are some steps now that Catherine's in remission that could be taken to further deepen their links into society, into the Commonwealth, into religion, into Wales. So that's where I am with it all. Some friendly advice to the Prince and Princess of Wales. Right, I'm going to leave it there. Do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'm always interested to see what you guys think as well. And let me know if you've enjoyed this little from the Royal Bedchamber chat. So from me until, do all the stuff, like, share, subscribe. It really does help get this video pushed out to more and more people. Hopefully I've mentioned some themes and topics that you've not considered at the moment. Don't know. Oh, one more thing before I go. I'll save it for another video. Hold that thought. So from me until next time, mwah, to you all my lovies, and goodbye.